super exciting. This is from Specialized Gravity. This is a prototype downhill bike. We saw Loic and we saw Finn Iles racing this last year, and now World Cup winner #1 of last year, Jordan Williams, has got one of these amazing prototype bikes, and we're going to dive into, well, as much tech as we are allowed to. So we've got aluminium machined lugs, we've got carbon tubes, it's all bonded together. It's still in a prototype form, so will it make it production like this? I'm not sure. So lugs, now we've talked about them as they're kind of like new and they're exciting. We've seen them on some other brands' bikes, it's really innovative. I think one thing to remember is way back, Specialized's first Epic had titanium machined lugs and really similar bonded carbon tubes. So yeah, I think that's going to be probably about 30 years ago, but Specialized really not new to this kind of lug and tube construction. Effectively, and it gets complicated, and without a kinematics chart or a suspension engineer, I am merely hypothesizing, but effectively it looks like a 4-bar linkage, so like a 4-bar setup. So we've got a link between the bottom bracket and the rear axle, so it's going to change the axle paths. We've also got multi-links to drive the shock. So previous versions that we've seen had a sort of an adjustable lower link. That's the one just below the chainstay that you can see. And it looks like now we've got a machined one with various different sort of writing on it. So I suspect that is now a set piece. And also the kind of link driver, previously that had adjustment on it too. Now that's machined, and again, like there's a written number on it. We're LR1. So what that secret code means, we'll find out. I suspect it's playing with how that linkage activates the shock, and that sounds obvious, but it's playing with the progression of the shock in an independent way from all the other adjustments on the bike. There's lots of clever details in here. So on the kind of rear swing link, which helps create the axle path, they've now got a bolt-on frame brace. So I'm hypothesizing, because we don't know, it is a prototype, but I suspect that's something to do with frame stiffness, and maybe it can change how the bike tracks dynamically. It's a one-piece sort of seat stay, all made out of carbon, so that feels like it's getting quite production-y. Now, around the shock mount, again, there's lots of little bolts for additional covers, so some of the other bikes have got additional covers, and chatting to the mechanics, it's essentially to hide something that's going on with the shock. What's happening? We're not sure, but I'm sure we'll find out more at a later date. I think other attention to detail here is this cable routing. So on road bikes, I know, a bit of a flashback, road bikes from a while ago, we used to do something called a calicross with the down tube. So the cable routing would come in from one side and flip over, and then you'd have to cross it over on the down tube. And now just above the bottom bracket on this bike, that's what Nathan's done with the cable routing. And it means it can keep it really quiet. The flex keeps it in place. It's just fantastic attention to detail. Up front, we've got the Öhlins DH fork. Interestingly, I saw a number of different coloured crowns and slightly subtly different clamp setups on all 3 bikes in the pits here. So I imagine that they might be playing with different trail or different offsets of the fork to do different things. Chatting to some of the other mechanics here, there's also a lot of talk that they might be following across from the motocross world. Öhlins makes a lot of suspension for a lot of other motorsports and race motorsports. And there's a big thing in motocross whereby you change the clamps of your triple clamp forms. It can change the flex, which can help grip. So maybe Specialized are doing something similar with this bike and with Öhlins, of course. So be interesting to see how that develops. We've got a full Renthals cockpit, 780 bars, so pretty wide. Brakes wise, we've got the Magura MT7 4-piston, one-piece caliper brake that is in this amazing team issue, just, I don't know, bright snot yellow. They've now got sort of 2 pads. There was a while where they were running 4 pads. Actually, they're a stock lever. So we've seen, I think, Bruni and also Finn running some customized levers, but for Jordan, he's just got stock ones. Other contact points, we've got a nice Specialized Phenom saddle. I did chat, Jordan's quite a tall guy, I did chat with Nathan, his mechanic, and ask him, why is his saddle so low? I mean, it could be that he's really, really strong, and he doesn't need to have this saddle under his bum, and he can just sprint around. But yeah, apparently Nathan tries to put it up a little bit each time, and yeah, Jordan slides it back down again. So interesting setup, shows how personal all these bikes are and how different they are. Last of the contact points is pretty much a downhill classic now. Mallet DH pedal. These ones in a very nice silver. They're not showing any scuffs. I think they're brand new actually. So yeah, very nice. So as I was looking down at the pedal, I've just noticed a really good touch. And it's one of these things, you get all these little extra bits of detail and attention to detail that World Cup mechanics can add to a bike, and it's really amazing to see. And sometimes it's so subtle. Like with this one, we've got some kind of the fuzzy Velcro just on the inside here of the sort of like number board. Essentially, it's a marsh guard number board, and it's just to keep the sound down, so it's nice and quiet. Lots of these subtle details. I mean, you could do these at home on your own bike, but it just makes your bike that much quieter so you can concentrate on the track. Lovely attention to detail. So on the back, we've got actually quite a narrow rear setup. Looking at it, it looks like it's just boost rather than 150 or 157 spacing, so that's interesting. In terms of drivetrain, we've got what is now a classic in DH, which is the SRAM Exo DH, running on that really unique one-piece machined 7-speed cog. We've got the smaller, I think it's Enduro rims, so the DT Swiss EX 471, and it's a 275 on the back and a 29er on the front, so mixed wheel size. We've got a Cannibal tyre from Specialized. My thumbs are saying it's a lovely soft compound. Chatting to Nathan, he was saying that they're running the XE Cush Core. They've got an option to run whatever inserts they want to, and they choose to run the Cush Core XE version. So Cush Core, you might know, is an insert. It sort of fills up a lot of volume in a traditional sort of downhill casing. It's quite wide as well, so it almost acts as a bit of a sort of like bead gripper. The XE one is a lot smaller. It's designed for much smaller wheels than these 2.4s. But they think on the team that the XE provides just enough protection, but without the weight and without the risk of damaging the sidewalls of what are relatively slim tyres. Interesting bike, super interesting, I think. So well built, so well prepped, and I still wonder what's under those covers. What's Olin's cooking up? What secret stuff have they got going? And I guess the bigger thing is, are we ever going to be able to buy it? What's the production bike actually going to look like? Would you buy one? Let us know in the comments below.